Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep.
Hello there, many thanks for joining us on Razep Africa. Again, it's time to discuss what's going on across Africa. On today's edition, we'll be discussing diaspora investment, all the challenges that often impede us. But first of all, we'll go for a short break. When we come back, it'll be time for news update. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
Welcome back from that. Now, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has praised Kenya's effort to integrate refugees following a visit to Kakuma camp in the country's northwest recently. Redesigned as a municipal, Kakuma is being positioned as a model for inclusion, offering refugees access to public services and path to beyond long-term aid dependence. The International Court of Justice has opened hearings into allegations that Myanmar committed genocide against Rohingya minority during the 2017 military campaign. Case filed by the Gambia accuses Myanmar of violating genocide conventions, claims the country denies while challenging the court's jurisdiction. Equatorial Guinea relocates capital. Equatorial Guinea has officially relocated its capital from Malabo to Ciudad de La Paz by presidential decree, ending years of planning to move the seat of government from Bioko Island to mainland. President Teodoro Obiang says that the move is for strategic reasons to ease pressure from Malabo's rapid urban growth. Government institutions are expected to complete the transition within 1 year. Somalia has announced the cancellation of all agreement with United Arab Emirates, accusing Gulf state of undermining its sovereignty and national unity. The decision affects security and port-related cooperation and is linked to tensions over Somalia following recent diplomatic developments that sparked regional concerns. DR Congo are facing increasing attacks and security threats, particularly in South and North Kivu, according to the United Nations. The growing insecurity is disrupting aid operations and limiting access to vulnerable communities in regions already affected by prolonged conflict. And finally, dredging activities in Lagos Lagoon is expanding rapidly, supplying sand for construction and land reclamation as the city continues to grow. But fishing communities say the practice is destroying fish habitats and livelihood, while experts warn that unchecked dredging could worsen flooding and environmental damage. And that's it for Africa's update this morning. We'll go for another quick break. When we return, we'll get into that conversation I promised earlier, where we have our guest who would be discussing how we can improve investment in Africa, the challenges that impede this investment, and the prospect ahead. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
Africa is home to over 1.4 billion people, yet millions of its brightest minds live and work outside the continent. Every year, Africans in diaspora send billions of dollars back home. But here's the question. Are we consuming that money or investing it? Tonight, this morning, we are discussing diaspora investments, actually, not just as remittances, but as knowledge transfer, innovation, partnerships, and long-term growth. What stops Africa in diaspora from investing confidently back home? What systems are broken? And more importantly, what platforms are intentionally fixing them? So joining me this beautiful morning to discuss all of this is Ambassador Eze Chukwu, the convener of the Diaspora Africa Conference, a platform focused on strengthening partnerships, innovations, and Africa's economic transformation. Thanks again for being part of the show, Ambassador.
Thank you so much. I'm joyous. You always do a great job whenever we're having interviews.
I'm always happy to have these conversations with you. Yes. And welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you so much. There's no place like home. Yeah. Anytime my plane touches down in any part of Africa, be it Kenya, Nairobi, be it in Dar es Salaam, in Tanzania, or be it in Accra, Ghana, right, I feel at home. Like I keep telling people, this is home.
It is home, and this is what we often ask for from our diasporans. Come back home, contribute your bit, and I'm happy that you are doing so much in that regard, ensuring that the conversation around investing back home is indeed rife within you. I know you've been doing so much in terms of the conferences. I think that's where I would like the conversation to start, before giving us basics, before we go into the conversation proper. I mean, you just ended the show you had some time ago in Nairobi.
Yeah.
What's in the would I call it, what's brewing for 2026?
Well, 2025 was a great year for the Diaspora Africa project. And we ended up in Kenya, like you said, and it was an amazing conference that we had in Nairobi. And a lot of excitement is coming here in Africa. And hopefully we should host the next conference in South Africa in August. But for February, is a lot going on in Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas.
Yes.
Where I am, by the way, for everyone who's wondering, I would be hosting that event in Houston, Texas. Let's talk to our diasporans. Let's challenge and engage on the issues that we often face. But let's go back to the conversation right now. What do you think often stops this in your conversation and engagements with your brothers and sisters across the world? I know you breathe Africa, and so you sweat Africa. And so when you meet these people, you always say, you're doing well. Now, Africans are doing really well across the world, but what about back home? What is the main challenge that often impedes that?
So thank you for that question. At the first panel section we're going to have in Houston in February, we're going to focus on African culture and identity. Because the cultural part of Africa and our identity defines who we are. And because we don't record our history very, very well, we often miss our identity. So that is one of the challenges we have in the diaspora, to identify who is an African. And most times people feel that they maybe are not Africans because maybe they were not born in the continent. And I go by the saying that African is born inside people, right? If you're born, wherever you are, African is born in you. So if, for example, if you're an American, if you're an African born in America, I would rather call you an African born in America than an African American.
Exactly.
So those are the kind of challenges that we see, you know, the acceptability that they are really Africans, despite the fact that they either have moved out to from Africa to the diaspora, because we have two classes of Africans in the diaspora. We have the continental African diaspora, and we also have the historical Africans in the diaspora. So I am classified as the continental African diaspora because I know where I'm from in the continent. And the historical Africans in the diaspora, they're also very, very engaged with the African diaspora development.
I mean, I've had some conversations as well. Often it is the remittances are mistaken for investment. And I don't understand how you don't know the difference. Well, do you also have that when it comes to talking to people and they say, yeah, but I do send money back home?
Yes. So I'm so excited that you'll be able to separate both. Remittances and investments, they're different. If you go online and go to all those mobile money transfers applications out there, and decide to send money back home, maybe for somebody to pay their school fees, or somebody to feed, or somebody to be able to, you know, go around transportation or whatever it is, or healthcare needs, that is really not investment.
Exactly.
And that's what we're seeing today as being calculated, unfortunately. And you can imagine, if we're looking at remittances and not investment, you can imagine what it is. Now today, how many Africans in the diaspora would you say they are owners of farms, owners of big real estates? What are the infrastructures that is coming in place? Which is what we're really talking about, investments in infrastructure in Africa. Because Africans in the diaspora need to come back and take their positions in Africa. We need to be the owners of the big hotels, and it hurts my mind when I go to places like Nairobi and I see the centers, the city center businesses owned by the Chinese who are not, you know, people of African descent. And you go to Zanzibar, it's the same. You get into a flight from Charles de Gaulle and you're headed to Zanzibar, 98% of people you're going to see there are people who are not Africans. So we need to start taking positions, and taking position means having investments within infrastructure. That is what I'm talking about. What are those infrastructures that African diasporas are putting in place in agriculture? What are we doing in bilateral relationships, entrepreneurship? What kind of infrastructure do we have on ground? That is a very good one here.
Right. Could you say, I mean, we've had this conversation before where we talked about the processes, the licensing, and all of that. It's often so bogus and intentionally complicated that sometimes you're like, you know what, it seems like an uncharted or a straightforward path. Let me leave African investments. I don't want to get straight into corruption because I know the stereotype that often follows that. Oh, corruption in Africa. But I know that if there's so much corruption, how come others are doing so well?
That was a very interesting conversation I had in Houston, Texas, with some of my friends who are African Americans, and they said the first thing they hear about Nigeria is scam.
Scam.
And I'm like, that's not true. That's what the media is telling you.
Exactly.
If you go into the media and you're listening to Nigerian news, I mean, they're going to print something bad for you. You don't want to come. And he said, come to think about it. A friend of mine who was here in Nigeria told me that when you were growing up in America as little kids, once it's late night, that's when they want to start playing African
music,
movies, and they'll be showing, you know, people who don't wear clothes. Exactly. That's what the media is showing us.
Exactly.
So there's corruption everywhere in the world. It's not just Africa.
I mean, we read about it.
Yeah. So the good news is that we are beginning to show visibility, and visibility is what drives investment. People are able to say, oh, this is what they're doing. We are interested in that.
Absolutely.
So I will say the government policies are very, very important for us at this point. You know, and for somebody who wants to open up a bank account in Africa, what does it take for somebody who is from African descent, who's an African American or British black, who wants to open up a bank account? we need to start creating a blueprint that suits the African diaspora.
Absolutely.
Because they've gone out there, they don't have things like NIN, they don't have things that will aid in identifying who they are. So we need to have ways to integrate what systems work for them in the diaspora back here home in Africa, and that would be a no-brainer. That would be a winner for us if we're able to say, okay, you are
we recognize this.
We recognize you.
Exactly.
You
our brother.
We know who you are, and we are seriously working on creating a huge database of Africans in the diaspora based on their country, where they are from here in Africa, and in no long time we'll be able to come with those
that's an interesting one. What would that's a database look like? Because considering that we often meet Africans who do not want to even be associated with Africa. Again, it's because of the narratives that are out there. But it's very concerning. You meet your friend. I have a friend whose name is no longer Olamide. Her name is now Lami. And I'm like, your name is not Lami. Your name is Olamide. And she's not quick to tell you she's Nigerian, but she's definitely going to tell you that she's from the UK. So that's the issues we have. How would that database look like? Are you going to have willing participants, or you are going to force it out? Listen, you must be patriotic to your roots.
So most people want to identify with Africans because this is home, and they know that. So when we create this database, we're going to, consider a whole lot of functionalities and features that work in this database. We have the Diaspora Africa mobile app, which we have established since 2018. And this is where we're going to, basically develop different countries, looking at their database, connecting Africans to the diaspora to be able to, figure out what is their identity, where are they, what are they doing. When you see Africans in the diaspora, we don't have that clear-cut database that you can go ahead and say, hey, this is 2 million Nigerians in the diaspora. Where are they? How many of them are in Houston, Texas? How many of them are in
Florida?
In Florida.
Exactly.
What are they doing over there? Because oftentimes when you go to the diaspora and figure out what Africans are doing in the diaspora, especially the geographical Africans in the diaspora, you'll be crying. Because we're coming from a place of riches. We're coming from a place of kingship. We come from a place that we are culturally rooted in moral standings. And then when you see out there in the diaspora and figure out the kind of jobs that we do out there, you can't even want to do it outside here where you're coming from in Africa.
Exactly.
So imagine you have gold reserves in the back of your house. You have oil, you have lithium, you have a whole lot of crops that is of high demand in the West, and you go back to that that part of the world in the West, and your
security man.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but you must also admit that Africa has its challenges. A quick Google search will tell you how policy inconsistency and regulatory uncertainty, corruption and lack of transparency, weak investments and unprotected frameworks, currency instability and capital repatriation challenges, poor data, unreliable and so on. What is the Diaspora Africa project doing to ensure that, these issues I just mentioned are issues that several other countries have. Maybe it's clothed in other big linguistic terms. However, what are you doing intentionally to address these issues with government across the continent, with stakeholders who are interested, and most especially, in the media part, you and I have worked together to ensure that we push narratives that do not give Africa that bad voice. I can attest to that. But however, we have other very important, unfortunate problems and issues that impede or have been barriers to having people quickly say, you know what, I want to invest in agriculture in Africa, I want to invest in the real estate sector, I want to invest in, without fear that you will not be scammed, that the government will not, the inconsistencies that a lot of people often talk about.
So you just mentioned something, that quick Google search. And in my mind, why Google search?
What's the reliable?
So that's what that's what the West is also painting to us again. That the Google search is the best search, right? What are the algorithms? Where are they getting those data from?
Are you implying that there's an intention to paint Africa a certain way?
That is just what it is.
Okay.
That's what it is, because we're not telling our stories.
To what end?
If you go to Google search and say, hey, Google search, tell us what is going on in Ikom in Akwa Ibom State.
Cross River.
Sorry, Ikom in Cross River State. What is Google going to give you? Based off of the last algorithm of information they have over there, that's what they're going to give us.
Right.
Now, I was in Nigeria late last year for the Christmas festival, and I looked at a place like Abia State. And the information is not on Google. Go put it on Google and say, hey, what's going on within the road from the tower to above where the road? What does it look like? Google is not going to give you that response.
And yet it is beautiful.
Exactly.
Construction work has been ongoing for a very long time. I agree with you, but that also opens another kettle of fish that I don't know if we have time for. The intentionality by not just individuals, intentionality from government to put this information out there that will paint a certain picture.
Yes, I'm happy you have this Razep Africa, which says Love Africa platform, which is basically telling us about what's going on in Africa. I was somewhere in Nigeria listening to local news, and I heard them talking about something happening in Lubbock, Texas. And I'm like, why are you giving us information about Lubbock, Texas? Would those people in Lubbock, Texas tell us what is going on in your local government? They know. So basically, we need to start owning things. Instead of us saying, let's go Google search, let's go Yahoo, let's go that. Let's have our own platform that tell our story. I remember one of my very good mentors who talked about we writing our story. We Africans, it's time for us to write our story. Whatever you're doing, document it. Make it clear and let people see it. Because if you don't tell your story, then they're going to tell your story. They're going to tell us how bad we are. They're going to tell us we're scammers forever. Because one Nigerian did something bad in the entire universe doesn't mean all of us bad.
Absolutely.
And I ask most people who say Nigerians are scammers or Africans don't have the structure, I ask them, tell me one thing or show me one place one African has scammed you. And none of them has told me that I scammed them.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's just a narrative that runs way, and unfortunately, bad news often sells, and this is affecting the image of our country.
And so this is the solution, and I'll tell people who want to come to Africa, take a trip, take a discovery trip, don't invest yet, come to Africa. Get into the flight. There are lots of places you go to. You could go to Accra, Ghana. You could go to Nairobi. You could go to Dar es Salaam. You could go to Lagos. You could come to Abuja. Abuja is a great city. This morning I was walking around the city freely, taking my morning walk, and I didn't seem to see any kind of fear in Africa. So the job here is media. And that's why I'm here today to talk about what we Africans can do with the media. Let's start owning and telling our stories, because nobody can tell our story better than we can tell our stories. So let's not rely on what the West is saying about Africa. Let us tell our own story. Let us go and find out where those developments are happening. Let us follow a day-to-day activity of what is happening in different government sectors. Who is delivering what and what are they delivering? Let us know, and let us have media outlets like this that will be able to showcase the little things that people are doing. They're very, very important, and that's where we're looking at. There are a lot of startup businesses, there are a lot of founders businesses, there are a lot of entrepreneurs who are out there doing great in fintech, in agro trade, in healthcare, in education. There's a lot that people are doing out here in Africa that is not out there in the West, and the West will not populate those in their system.
Naturally, why would they? It's not in their best intent to do that, and so it all behoves on you and I. And unfortunately, we are seeing a lot of our brothers, and that's where my next question goes now, where there's it seems like you're colluding to look to be friends with the West or something. I've seen people say derogatory things about Africa, calling on this same West to come to our aid, as if we are disabled, we are unable to move, we are unable to thrive and be productive as a continent. When you do go there and have these conversations with people in diaspora who do not see the kind of vision you have for Africa? How do you approach it? How do you ensure that you don't lose it? Because I sometimes have to intentionally hold back when I hear those in diaspora who are doing jobs that would never even consider to do back home say so many derogatory things about this beautiful continent of ours.
So I would say it's more of not being very exposed, because a whole lot of people who are out there do not know anything that's going on in Africa. The first conversation I have with people, I say, have you been to Africa? I've met people who are in their 60s, 70s, who are people like me and you who've never come to Africa before. So they just all put on the TV or put on the radio, and that's what they know about Africa. I would say, you are African, right? Oh, you're from African descent. Have you gone to Zambia, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, South Africa? Take a trip and go there. Do not listen to the news. Do not believe me in face value that Abuja is safe. But just come to Abuja and let's see if there's war over there in Abuja. But the media is going to paint it. When I was taking a trip from the United States to come to Nigeria, someone was telling me, are you going to Nigeria where they are bombing? I'm like, no, I'm not going to where they are bombing.
I mean, I got a lot of messages from my friends all over the world telling me to be careful, please.
Yes.
I'm like, careful for what?
Yes.
Careful for what? That's narrative you have concocted, and you are comfortable in your cocoon. Be there. But I'm telling you, I am safe. A friend of mine who works for an embassy once went somewhere. I mean, we're having lunch, and he looked around and said, look at the people, look at the Christians who are supposedly victims of a genocide.
Yeah.
This is not just a genocide, meaning an intention to write off an entire ethnicity or a people. That is, he said, look around you and tell me if, and we're in Kano. So in Kano, where you would expect that if there is such a thing as a genocide, Christians should be hiding under tables and stuff. But we were all there freely, having a meal, discussing with each other and all of that. So these are narratives that are pushed by certain individuals, especially from the West. There's another long story of why that is.
So, but back to your question about how the West perceives us and how we are integrating and partnering with the West.
And how we are colluding to push those narratives. So,
I will tell you, I normally talk about Africans in the diaspora and also say friends of Africa, because it's a global initiative. We can't do it by ourselves.
Absolutely.
So there are genuine people who are from the West who care about Africa. I will tell you that much. I know of a pastor in Houston who is building a big secondary school in Kenya. Never been to Kenya before. Now, there are lots of people who have great initiatives that will help us here. But the thing about it is, we cannot look at everybody as having an ill intention towards Africa.
Absolutely.
There are Chinese people who really genuinely mean to help us in Africa. There are Indians who want to help us. There are people from the United States who really want to help us. The US aid that we got for many years in Africa was from good intention. So now, if we are corrupt and we have corrupt leaders, it's on us to call them out. How many people have cared to take a research on how much money that we have gotten in US aid in Africa? Where was it spent? Nobody is taking time to bring that research. But rather, we're busy talking about politics and corruption. The data is there. Oh, we say we're going to one ministry and we'll give this ministry some amount of money. Well, how much money went in there?
And what's the impact of whatever the project is? What's the initiative? How far is it gone? What is the KPI? We don't get.
People have no time for that. People are rather talking about it, but they're not going down and saying, this is my organization. My organization that we're setting up today is an independent organization. We're going to take a look at what did UNICEF do? What did the World Health Organization do? What did USAID do for us in Africa, in Nigeria? These organizations, those information are there. Let's go grab it and look what they're doing with us. And that's how we'll be able to establish and say for sure that this is good for Africa or this is not good for Africa.
Absolutely. Speaking about grabbing or what is necessary, where do you see the biggest opportunities for diaspora-led investment? Okay, I think for that chuckle, let's go for a short break. When we return from that short break, Ambassador would answer the question as to what he perceives as the biggest opportunities for diaspora-led investments. We'll be right back after that. This is still Razep Africa.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
If you're just joining us, this is Razep Africa, where we've been discussing everything Africa. The whole idea for all of this is to paint Africa, not with the brush of others, but with our own paint, with our own brush, with the charcoal from our trees, and so that you would have a proper idea of what this continent possesses. It's not about the narratives that you find. And I'm happy to have a guest who shares that passion with me, who has been discussing so much, especially investments that would further boost our continent. In the studio, we've been discussing with Ambassador Eze Chukwu, the convener, Diaspora Africa project. He has conferences across Africa reminding diasporans that at the end of the day, your roots need you. Again, thank you so much for being part of the program and staying with us. We have taken the conversation to opportunities, the biggest opportunities for diaspora-led investment. And you chuckled, which precipitated that break right there. But if you have to sum it up, I know that excites you, what would it be?
So, Razep Africa, it says unfiltered, unapologetic, and unafraid.
Yes.
I love that.
That's the African spirit.
Okay, great. That's great. So, back to your question. I'm going to be unapologetic about it. I'm also going to be afraid about it. The investments in Africa is not really rocket science. We have how many billion people in Africa?
1.4.
About 1.4 billion people in Africa, human capital development. There are a lot of human beings who are not doing nothing in Africa. So what can they do? Look out for where you can employ them and give them jobs that will service the West.
Absolutely.
If you go to the West, they are looking for human beings like that. They're nowhere to be found. Let's go into agriculture. Let's go into housing. Let's go into solid minerals. Let's look for things that are essential commodities that people can't find anywhere else. I had some friend of mine talk about going to China to go and get machineries for agriculture. People have to eat. How are we going to feed this 1.4 billion people in Africa in the next 10 years? The population is going to keep increasing. And that's the difference between the West and here. The West keeps thinking about to improve and scale whatever they are producing because they know the population is going to keep increasing. We're not going to be reducing in Africa. Right? So we're not finding so much water that are killing people. The disease is not too bad because we have resistance to diseases in Africa.
As we speak.
So you can see most households about 4 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids. More than one wife is allowed in Africa. So they're making more kids in Africa.
There's no end to how many you are allowed to have.
So if you ask me specifically where I've seen a whole lot of traction is in agriculture, it's in solid minerals, it's mostly in human capital development. Let's come and educate our booming generation on how best we can develop each other.
I mean, that's very important, especially agriculture, because it's unfortunate when you look at that sector and we still see machetes and hoes, that's not sustainable for this exponential growth, especially in Africa, that we record the younger population, and so it's more vibrant. We will see more births and all of that. So when you discuss agriculture, especially with in your platforms, to say this is a viable sector to look into, considering unfortunately the insecurity that we often record in some parts of Africa, what do you get as feedback or receptivity towards the idea?
So in Africa, when we talk about agriculture, like you mentioned, hoes and knives, that's not the agriculture we're talking about. We're talking about mechanized agriculture. We're talking about agriculture that has leveraged the use of AIs, data, to be able to manufacture food that is healthy. Somebody told me that the amount of tomatoes that waste in Africa is a lot.
Oh, it is. It is.
How many?
We don't have silos. We don't have silos to store some of our produce.
How many tin tomatoes manufacturing plants do we have around each other? How many collection centers do we have around that can just go about, collecting this stuff from the farm? And then when we talk about the issues with the herdsmen and whatever that's going on in the bush, that's a different ballgame. Within your house, subsistence farming. I tell you, my family have land where there's not going to be any cattle to go and take it over, that you can have yam planted in a bag. In fact, I ate from that yam on this trip, and I'm taking some back to the States, where you just can have yam. Just imagine you have 100 tubers of yam planted in 100 bags for a year. Let's even stop thinking about so much about the agriculture. Let's
feed ourselves in our small space.
Someone was telling me they're hungry. When we got that yam, we sliced it up. We gave about 5 people lunch, right? Real quick there. So we're not hungry.
We're not.
Right. So let's not even think the agriculture too much. Let's make sure that everybody has something that they are planning.
But you're talking about investment. You're talking about individuals who have made some money and they don't want to invest in the countries they are in, and you know how it is. In other parts of the world, if you must invest, it's a bit more seamless. So these are individuals whose investment is not out of the need for profit per se, but the need to promote their economies, the economies of their countries. So what would you say people should do if I am based in New York, for instance, and I want to invest in agriculture? Where would you advise? I mean, as an expert, where should they start? So
investment is something we need to define clearly. What is your long-term investment plan?
Right.
Are you trying to invest in 1 year and reap in 1 year? Are you trying to invest in 5 years and reap in the next 10 years? Some of these things take a long time to even plan it and research and understand which area that is best worked for you.
Let's say tomatoes, you just mentioned.
So for example, tomatoes, and we just looked at it, just go and do a random sampling of how many tomato bags or tons that comes from this part of the country. What can I establish around that will help aid the delivery of these tomatoes to the end product? Go and have a collection center where they're saying, okay, these tomatoes, they don't like the way it looks. Because in Nigeria, if your tomato is not looking fresh, nobody's going to buy it. They say it's bad. Right. So, and they don't have storage facilities. My point here is you have to take your time and do a detailed research to understand the area you want to invest in agriculture.
Absolutely.
If you're looking at investing, for example, in cocoa or in ginger, I'm surprised that I can't see ginger anywhere. People will say it's scarce.
It's unfortunate, and that takes us to yet another conversation. This conversation is even worse, where we embrace the GMOs, ginger that came, and with that GMOs you can't replant. You must get the fresh seedlings all the time. Unfortunately, there's inflation. Our farmers can no longer have monies to go purchase the seedlings, although it grew well. But yeah, that's where we are in ginger.
Oh wow! Can you imagine? Just ginger people started talking about ginger after COVID. But it's been there all this while. Nobody talks about ginger like that. The West have been taking ginger from all of a sudden because they know how
the nutritional content
value
in ginger.
Bitter cola. I don't even know how we source bitter cola here in Africa. If the West knows or are able to plant and grow bitter cola,
They would have by now.
By now, would have been importing bitter cola in Nigeria.
But they do come get our bitter cola. We buy it in our in pharmaceuticals and cosmetics, but we're happy as long as it's not being produced in the continent.
A bitter cola, one bitter cola is worth about $1 in the United States. One.
That's 1,000.
That's 1,500 and 600 naira for one. And you can't even say it's not fresh like the one you have here.
Yeah.
Right. And it has very high medicinal use. It's a lot that we can do in agriculture, that our land is still fertile. We don't need to have GMOs here yet. We can still do the land.
And yet, exactly, that's how gullible we are. These things come, our government embrace it, we run off with it, and it's now costing us. You asked about ginger, doing a research about what's happening to our ginger. People are crying because they can no longer plant the ginger, and the lands where you plant these GMOs are no longer fertile enough for the regular ginger, the natural ginger that came with natural resistance.
So that's why I say you have to be careful with technology.
Absolutely.
When we got internet, everybody wanted to go get a Yahoo Mail. Everybody wanted to go to the internet and see what's going on in the internet. Same thing is happening with AI. We need to know what we're taking from the West when they bring it to us.
What's in it for us?
Right. We need to not forget that we used to have brands. We want technology improvement, right? But we also need to be careful how we're getting that technology into us. These days, everybody wants... Do you know how many Nigerians are on YouTube every day, spending time? Everybody wants to create content. Everybody believes that if you have followers on Instagram, that you're successful. Right.
But what happens to indigenous AI softwares or technological?
Who is talking about AI? We're talking about AI Center of Excellence in every organization here in the West. Let us figure out the person who is working in the front desk, your marketing and sales team, how are they using AI today?
Right.
Everybody's hearing AI. The only thing people talk about AI, they go to ChatGPT or go somewhere and prompt it and they create something real quick. How many of them are creating AI agents? How many of them are creating AI bots that can help them improve what they are doing?
How many governments across Africa has technological hubs where young people can come even learn about this AI to even become agents?
Great. That's why leadership is very, very important, and we're working on leadership very, very much. People are getting into leadership. I don't want to mention names, but we know some states that their leadership is working right now in Nigeria. And that is why I said there is hope. Joy is coming in Nigeria.
Joy is here.
Yes, because what I'm saying is that I can't believe that there are some leaders who will not just go in there and take things for themselves, but rather want to affect others. And that's what we are up for. We are looking at building schools, equipping, not just building schools, but making sure they are functional schools. Right, we're looking at early learning, early child education. We're looking at women empowerment. We are coming, and it's a lot of support system has happened in the last couple of years in the Diaspora Project, and a whole lot of people are interested in Africa because they have understood that this is the only place we can call home.
Again, I'd like to ask, who are these people who are showing support? Because everybody but Africans are often quick to understand the potentials in Africa, but Africans will be very skeptical. I've had conversations with people all over the world, and they're like, Africa is the next place for business. Africa has a growing population that is commercially viable. That's where the money is. But you talk to an African, they're like, oh no, I'd rather be driving.
It's education, collaboration. Who are you talking to in Africa? You work on a TV station here. I'm able to collaborate with you and we'll get some information back. Who has the farmland in Cross River State today? Who has the farmland in Jos? What are you doing with the lithium? What do you know about lithium? People from Nasarawa State, they have lithium in their country. Their state. How many of them are looking into the research to figure out, oh, this is the opportunities of lithium we have in our state. Let us start creating an education around the lithium. What is the post effect of this lithium exploration in there? It's not just about
go come in there, explore it, and all of that. What happens after it? Because first of all, we always say this environmental assessment must be done before you come in and do your drilling, and after that, the host communities. Unfortunately, I've had conversations, I've attended workshops, and I've all been on the field when we come to speak about these mining activities that often happen in our lands, and especially if you just come with all light-skinned. You're attached security by institutions that should protect us first. Would be quick to give you security just to ensure that nothing bothers you in your work around ravaging this land. They leave pits, dangerous pits, and then they leave after exploration is done. They leave those pits in spite of the beautiful framework we have that protects the environment, protects the people, protect all those frameworks go to dust immediately. Push comes to shove and things have to be done. So we have these challenges in Africa, and whenever I have this conversation, it always excites me. That just like me, there's someone out there who sees these things. So I would just like to ask, what do you think government, if they are being genuine about diaspora capital and expertise, mentioning the challenges that impede this investment, what would you want the government across the continent to start doing as we speak, right now and here?
I will tell you, education, education, education.
Educating the populace.
Yes. Because if you're educated, then you'll be able to know what it is that is out there.
Right.
Right. If you're not educated, you'll be going for the crumbs. Right now, you could research. We have research. How many research institutes do we have right now with solid minerals?
Oh, there's a lot. Every single component has a research institute.
Great.
On paper, we are fine.
But look, I'll tell you much that when we started the Diaspora Africa project, sometime in 2018. Before we started the Diaspora Africa conference, we didn't know we were going to get this far this quick. And I'm excited about the Diaspora Africa project. A whole lot of people from African descent, a lot of Africans in the diaspora. You can hear diaspora everywhere right now. And I'm excited about it. What that means is that people with great initiatives are coming. They're looking. So when you hear that Africa is the future, they know it. And they don't want it to make it happen. So the leaders that are going to stop it, it's time up, because more people are coming. It's not everybody that you can, buy with money. It's not everybody that you can get corrupt. There are people who don't care about that. Those are the class and those are the categories of people who are coming from the diaspora. So the ones who are here, we are grateful that they stayed back to hold ground. But the African diasporas, they are coming back to Africa.
Okay, so if an African, as Africans are watching us right now and want to maybe contribute to Africa's growth, but maybe do not know where to start, what would it be for those watching us now?
So I would say, like I said, education, get yourself involved, look for any activity around your environment. There are lots of conferences around the diaspora. There are lots of resources that you can check out online to be able to figure out what they are doing. There are lots of organizations. There are diaspora organizations in a lot of places, in Ghana, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Nigeria. We have a very active one, the NIDCOM, and we want them to be able to educate people on what is going on in the diaspora. Right. I recently shared an exercise book within my local community. And
I saw those pictures. Yes. I saw those pictures.
Yes, and I define who is an African diaspora, because we don't even know that we have Africans who are living in the diaspora who can help us change here. So the education, the information that you have matters a lot. So the moment we start educating our people, then they start to know better. When I saw the roads in the eastern part of Nigeria, precisely Abia State, I saw roads that were better than Houston, Texas.
Exactly.
I saw walkways. I even saw in a place that I lived for 30-something years without traffic lights. I saw a traffic light that was not just a traffic light, but a traffic light that was positioned in a strategic place that made sense. Many years ago, I went to the northern part of Nigeria and I saw a flyover, freeway road around a place that had no traffic. Now, that wouldn't have made sense because there's no traffic over there. But the traffic light I saw made sense at that point in time, right? And look, I never believed that we could see help coming like that fast.
In Abia State, there are electric vehicles that are moving people from one place to the other, electric luxurious buses, and solving the transport problem. And I'm like, nobody is hammering on this.
Sorry, I have to say this today. I was driving around Omaya and I saw the convoy of the governor of the state. It was not more than 8 cars.
Right.
And I saw the car he was driving, and my brother said to me that this is an innocent driven vehicle that he's driving,
Right.
locally made here. That tells you something, that we can change. We can have great people in leadership in Africa. And guess what? I'm so excited that help is coming, and at this point, we are going to go ahead and embrace those who want to help us succeed in Africa.
Ambassador, again, I'm so happy you made it to the show this morning, and I'm excited also for the work that you do. We will meet in Houston, Texas, and that's next month, where we would have these diasporans right there and discuss some of the issues we just discussed there to enhance trade, investment, and economic transformation for Africa. And again, platforms like the Diaspora Africa Conference reminds us of Africa's growth story, and it can be written by Africans everywhere, home and abroad. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you, and I hope more grease to your elbow. For those who have been watching Razep Africa this morning, thank you so much for being part of the show. Until next time, keep building the Africa we believe in. I am Dr. Joy Asaye, signing out. Until next time.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.